Thank you, Gay. Thank you. I don't know what you all heard about that introduction. Here's what I heard. Secretary Perdue came to my school and talked to the fifth graders, and he fit right in. So, and I do, and I did. And Gay, it was great to be with you and your school. And I'm sorry we snubbed the superintendent, but I know where the power is in schools, okay? So obviously, it's one of my favorite groups. There's a rumor around town, and I think around the country, that we have a mutual admiration society going on, and you need to know if they come and investigate you, I've already pled guilty, okay? So I think you probably know I like you folks. So because I like what you do, and I want to thank you for what you do to help improve the health and nutrition of our America's school kids. Frankly, quite a job. USDA supports school breakfast and school lunch programs in nearly 99,000 schools and institutions that feed 30 million children annually. That's what you do all across the country. It is a big deal. It is a big deal. You're a big deal, and I've seen a number of these schools, but of course, not all 99,000, but I was happy to be with Gay, and I've seen a good sample of them, though. The lunchroom ladies and gentlemen out there were some of my favorite people. It wasn't just because I remember they made some great cinnamon buns when I was in school, but I could sense, even as a young elementary school student, there was a certain love and affection that people who feed kids love kids. And I know teachers love kids too, but there was a special affection and joy in the lunchroom when I was going to school. And I know that you all try to do that today. And it begins with healthy, nutritious, safe, palatable food. And that's what you all want to do. And I don't think my memories have changed a whole lot from what I see you doing today. You serve our school children breakfast. That's probably changed. And lunch across the country. And believe in what you do. That's the passion comes through. It's so evident and so clear that you pour your lives out into these children. When I see your motto, feeding bodies, fueling minds, emotional, physically, all those kind of things that make healthy kids. And I know you're concerned about their nutrition, their health eating, and committing to serve good food in a way that kids want. So I've been to schools in my home state of Georgia, of course, and here in Virginia. And in October, Gay recounted that I had the opportunity to visit in Brandon, South Dakota, in her school with now Governor Kristi Noem, at that time a member of Congress. Those visits and many others continue to remind me that kids in a nation as large as ours and diverse as ours like to eat different things, as you might imagine, just like their parents do. One of the interesting things about this job is I've been in 48 states since May of 17. I like to enjoy the different things around the country in different ways. You probably know that in Georgia, a breakfast food that's rather popular in my home state is grits. And I can pretty well guess that grits are not something on the breakfast menu in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, for instance. But kids in northern Montana have completely different tastes from those in southern California. East, west, north, and south. We all enjoy what we grew up eating and what we eat at home and what we culturally eat in all of our areas. And you're the ones really who know what those are and what those needs of your community are. And frankly, we had some rigid rules that kind of a one-size-fits-all or one rule fits all. And that's not necessarily the way we eat. We just need to acknowledge that. You found yourself focusing on rules. When I got here, I had heard from enough of you. I had a lot of friends in the school nutrition business before I got here, and they had already bent my ear pretty good about the challenges you all faced on an ongoing basis. You were focusing on rules that you knew were not really working for you, but more importantly, for the kids you were trying to serve. You saw kids throwing away food, and that hurt you. You knew that they were not getting proper nutrition no matter what the rules said because it wasn't going in their tummies. So one of my first actions when I became secretary in 2017, I don't want to politicize this term, but was to make school lunches great again. And that's it's not to say you weren't trying under the former rules, but Secretary of Senate Agriculture Chairman Pat Roberts and Patty Montague, representing the SNA at that time, joined me at an elementary school right here in Leesburg, Virginia, and I signed a proclamation beginning the process of restoring local control on guidelines on whole grains, sodium, and milk. And I'm pleased to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that the final rule achieving that goal was published in the Federal Register in December. You asked for it, and we listened and delivered. Don't get too excited. There's more to come. This rule promotes new strategies that ensure school nutrition standards are both helpful and practical, that they're doable. As I said a year ago, if kids aren't eating the food and it's ending up in the trash can, they're not really getting any nutrition. And you know if they're not eating at school, where they eat on the way home at convenience stores and fast foods, and they're going to eat somewhere. And if they're not eating your wholesome, healthy food, they're getting it somewhere else, which is not necessarily healthy. So that undermined the good intent. I think the intentions were good, but it undermined the intent of the rules that were there in the school meals program. The new flexibility outlined in the final rule gives schools and states the option of doing what we're laying out here today. These are not mandates on schools. It's flexibility. It gives freedom back to local schools to provide healthy meals in ways that their customers, America's school children, like and will eat. The department wanted to promote the health of our kids over the past several years, but the rules simply weren't working the way they were intended. Some schools were opting out even because the restrictions were just too difficult, too onerous, too complex to follow in a logical way. The rules made meal service, as you know more than I do, more expensive, and students probably more unhappy with some of your product. Not to mention the vegetables, fruit, and whole grains ending up in the tummy of the trash can. All this was happening as fewer kids were choosing to eat school meals. These are sad statistics. 1 million fewer kids compared to a decade ago. Lower participation, as you all well know, means that children likely are not getting the nutrition that they really need. School systems were incurring higher costs to feed kids that do participate. Something had to be done. So we set out to break that cycle. Shortly after he took office, President Trump signed an executive order to eliminate unnecessary burdensome regulations. This rule delivers on that. I think, again, it makes it possible for local school districts to make choices that will benefit their kids, their schools, their kids in their local districts that know what they like to eat in a healthy way. It should reduce the flow of the food into the formerly well-fed trash cans and get it into the kids' tummies in place. The food service people that I've met in our schools really believe in this, and they're up for it. I do believe, and you've indicated you want this, and you are the food service professionals in your county and states across this country, and I believe and trust that you know a good, healthy meal when you see one and when you produce one. As indicated by your slogan, you also know that children learn better when they eat healthy meals. And the rule we published in December lets you focus on doing what you love to do in the best way for you and doing it in a passionate way that so many of you who are called in this profession enjoy doing. And speaking of food service professionals, I'm excited to share with you today some more good news, so buckle up. This must be why you're one of my favorite groups. I get to give you good news. In fact, I asked my staff if I could tell you this joke today, and they said I could, so I'm going to tell you. When I was running for re-election as governor in Georgia, I'd been going all day long. Campaigning's hard work, and I had not eaten. You go to these, quote, receptions, and you talk. You don't eat when you're the candidate, and I'd gone all day long, and I finally got to a place where we were supposed to have a sit-down meal and go through a buffet, and they had some of the best-smelling fried chicken I've ever smelled there. I was so hungry, and I went through the line, and I got my plate, and the lady serving the chicken put a little small piece of chicken on there, and I looked at her. I said, "Ma'am, I'm so hungry. I hadn't eaten all day. Could I have another piece of chicken?" She was pretty brusque. She said, "No, sir, just one piece per person. Please move along." And I kind of hesitated, and I said, "Ma'am, do you know who I am?" She said, "No, do you know who I am?" I said, "Not really." She said, "I'm the lady in charge of the chicken. Now move on." So, but y'all wouldn't have done that to me, I know. But so good news, as with many positions of authority, school nutrition professionals must meet rigorous qualifications to take on the responsibility of feeding our children, and that should be that way. We all agree it's critical to ensure that our school meal programs are adhering to high standards, but we've heard from communities all across the country that the hiring rules are not always working as they are intended. Many small communities, mostly in rural areas, had difficulty hiring the talented people that wanted to serve their children, not because they weren't qualified, but because the rules were too prescriptive in prescribing the kinds of educational degrees and experience required to get the job. And if you've been out in the real world, there's a lot of competition there for help these days. You know there are many paths to professional skill and accomplishment. For instance, a manager or a chef at a local restaurant may well be an expert at putting together nutritious meals that kids will enjoy, even if they've never worked in a school cafeteria before. But the previous rules said that experience wasn't relevant, and a district couldn't hire that person. To me, that just didn't make sense. Urban and suburban school districts have lots of highly credentialed people competing for these jobs, but unfortunately, in our rural areas and our smaller towns and rural districts, didn't have a large pool of credentialed candidates. Those who meet and exceed the actual qualifications may derive their skills from other experiences. Once again, one size does not fit all, and I believe that we could do better. So last year, we made a promise to you all that we were going to work to ensure that you had the flexibility needed to hire qualified school food service professionals. And today, I'm here to tell you that we are delivering on that promise. In the next few days, we will be publishing the final rule to bring flexibility to those hiring rules when applied to small school districts. In fact, the text of the rule was published on the FNS website just this afternoon, so you can tune in. But I wanted to tell you when we came to talk to you folks, I think that's just plain common sense. So go find the best people. I can tell you hiring manager was the first one that stood up because you know how tough it is. These changes will make sure that standards are still strong, and they will account for a full range of expertise and experience that can make someone a world-class school nutrition professional. First requirement, you got to love kids. This rule gives small school districts the flexibility to hire qualified, professionals to run school meal programs. It ensures that small children, school children in these small and often rural communities get the same benefits as anyone else, and that's the way it should be. So as with the adjustments to the meal standards, this rule is part of my commitment to you and to the families that you all and we serve together. We will make these program requirements work for all schools across the nation. Finally, last summer, I hosted a roundtable to hear directly from schools. I was pleased that your members, SNA members, participated in that discussion. I also thought, Gay, it was interesting to have superintendents and board members there to hear of the financial challenges that you all face. So I was glad to have them included as well. It was a good opportunity to hear more about what is working and where challenges remain. We need to find better balance in our oversight. We don't want you to spend more time on paperwork than you do feeding kids. And that's that would have been a good time for a standing ovation, but I don't need another one. So we're now looking at ways to provide states the ability to modify schedules and processes for program reviews. How about that? So Gay, as we move forward, you can come onto the stage now because I'm about to finish. I want to encourage you to continue that dialogue with us. We want your input to make sure these programs work for you as you serve that ultimate customer, our school children across this country. So once again, you've got my admiration. I hope you can tell. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for letting me join you today. And I'm going to close with that motto at USDA once again, and I think which fits SNA just like a hand in glove. Do right and feed everyone. Thank you. God bless you.